Perfect, Michael. You know how we start all the
Are
time.
we on?
We are live.
So, Martin, just to first of all, welcome back to eCommerce Undercover.
Mhm,
And just to keep the thematic thing on fire, I'm walking around the office this morning, right?
mhm,
Just chit chatting with one of the new people here.
mhm,
And I say to her, because she's wearing a mask, I can't really tell. So I said to her, "Where are you from?"
mhm. What does she say?
You tell me.
France.
Unbelievable. Elodie, she's sitting right over there. And I love when people do this, right? Like they have a name that's, not a typical English name. So she said Elodie, it rhymes with melody.
Mm,
Anyway.
that's cool that there's so many French people like
And I
all
tried
the
to
time, right?
explain her this whole French thing.
Okay.
And she was just like, "Can I go back to my desk, please?"
I want to go back to work.
If you don't mind, I have my coffee. I'd like to go back to work. Anyway, let's welcome Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce Macdonald, the head
Yeah.
of ANZ Sales. Do you know what ANZ is?
Of course.
What?
Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand. You want me to tell you because you have no idea. Australia and New Zealand sales for Algolia,
Yeah.
which sounds like a vegetable from Brazil. Anyway, yeah, I love it, Bruce. That's great.
That's a nice t-shirt.
And Bruce, who do
Branding.
I have to pay off to get a t-shirt is really the question. How are you doing, by the way?
Yeah, really good. Thank you, and my absolute pleasure to be on this. As per radio, I've been a long time listener, first time caller, so I really appreciate the opportunity to fly the flag for Australia in ANZ or ANZ as it's referred to as. So I'm coming from Australia. Doing really well. Thank you. Can I give you a bit of
Yeah, so
backstory
do
on
you
what we
want to
do?
give us a little bit? Yeah, no, I don't want to know about Algolia yet. I want to know about you. What do you do? And first of all, if that room is in your house, whoever designed it, it's really beautiful, by the way. I love the white wall. It's really kind of cool. Anyway, can you give us some of your background for a little bit of context? You, not the company. We'll get to Algolia in a second.
Awesome. Yeah. So look, I think I actually built this little shack. I mean, I call it my panic room. In light of COVID and the previous like
I
working
love
from
it.
home roles, I actually bought a nail gun for myself and started building stuff. And this is one of my little I suppose side projects. Um, in terms of retail experience and e-commerce, I've probably been in the industry now for 15 years, I think it is. And I say that because my heritage, if you will, came from actually watering, feeding servers in racks to make sure that pure play retail commerce. So in Australia, New Zealand, there's big organisations called Catch the Day who do one deal a day, and they would almost create their own denial of service attack on themselves because it was so big. And so the company I was working for was our responsibility to make sure we had the infrastructure to support their e-commerce platform. It was an amazing time. It was before Amazon really, AWS was around, and we were responsible for running Magento and big enterprise platforms like SAP Hybris. And that's kind of where I started really, got my experience working with different vendors from the IT side and the retail side. And then I had the great opportunity to take the actual business to the States. We ran a very, call it commercial model, which was based on, pay per volume. And Australia, New Zealand's about 30 million people, and the US is about 350 million
Yeah.
people. So we did it on a bigger scale. So it was amazing to put my roots down in Chicago and see the complete difference. So that's me, based in
It is
Australia.
actually it's a gigantic difference. What was it like living in Chicago, by the way? And how long were you there?
So I had 3 kids as well. So 3 kids, 2 years, and snow. What is this thing called snow? Australia's, I think the Australia gets maybe a meter of probably. Have you guys? Do you know what hail is? Like it's rain that should be
Yeah.
forms
Yep.
of ice. We don't get snow. We get hail. That's it. And the idea of shoveling snow to get out of your driveway, that was amazing. Amazing experience with the family and I.
So I've said this for the longest time. I grew up in Massachusetts and in Connecticut, and when I was a little boy, it just snowed all the time. I felt like it snowed during the summertime, and I'll never forget my sister sitting up in the kind of living room window watching me shovel the like 150-meter driveway while they're like drinking hot cocoa and just like laughing. If I never see snow again, it'll be too soon. Way too soon.
I have a lot of snow stories about France as well, but I will keep it for myself.
Well, yeah, because where you live in France, it actually
Yeah,
gets really
of
cold.
course. Very cold. We have a lot of snows during February, March as well. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So you're lucky in a way. I mean, lucky. I don't like to use that word anymore. You've been very fortunate, right? Because you want to have this almost like analog experience before you get into the digital world, right? Because if you understand the way things work early on and later on when you get these much better, more sophisticated tools, your ability to employ them and deploy them, I think, is much better. Is that fair?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, the yeah, I think as well we try and invent new things to try and replace old things, but then reinvent the wheel again. Um, you talked about analog and the way it's been built. I think when you think about like the 70s and 80s, even 60s, right? They built these mainframes, centralized compute, and then the 90s it was decentralized, server and stuff like that. Now it feels like we're going full turn circle again and built this, centralized, big infrastructure like a Azure and AWS. It's crazy, isn't it? It's like we keep going around in circles.
But you can't be old enough to remember this. You keep talking about having 3 kids. Like, I must be twice your age. I have 1 kid.
No, I live in Australia, so technically, like everyone looks younger down here, isn't that right? Isn't that what happens?
No, no,
Our
no way.
quality
Do
of
they?
life, maybe. No, I'm just joking. Look, I started if I look go way back, I started in the basically the storage games, selling infrastructure, and one of those platforms was for DASDs, the old mainframe storage. So that's kind of where my heritage comes from. But that was like early 2000. That's kind of my introduction to the workforce.
Yeah, but I do think you make a really good point, right? So when people started talking about we're gonna put everything in the cloud, to me, when I first started at Morgan Stanley, and this was in 1987, we had something called mainframe mail. And I just remember everything we stored was on the mainframe. And to me, that was just like an internal cloud. So when people started talking about the, AWS and Google Cloud and all this stuff, I'm like, didn't we do this in the 80s and early 90s already? Of course, it wasn't as sophisticated, but
Yeah,
it seems like the same thing. You're right. We're coming full circle. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Algolia, right?
yeah,
What does it
definitely.
do? And like what's the point? How does it help e-commerce companies? Just give me a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, most definitely. Look, I am blessed with the opportunity to represent this company. It's an amazing company. The French connection is that this company was built in France. It was
No.
the two.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's it's there is a connection there. Nicholas and Julian,
Right.
they're amazing. They this company
Go
that we
ahead.
found on the one premise, which was to improve basically search on mobile. They recognize and the speed in which you could deliver a good customer experience through mobile. So back in 2012, we're not talking about a lot of infrastructure, and so the ability to be able to support that was really where the roots of the solution came from. And then if you come full circle, really what Algolia does is we deliver an amazing, what we call search and discovery experience. And so what if you parlay that into be it a web experience, a mobile experience, and even in-store experience, we're serving those customers, making sure that they can find a good connection. So it's about discoverability. That's the key thing.
But so can I ask this though? You talk about search. Is this competing with Google search at scale? Or is it just very
Yeah, look,
targeted search just for retail? I'm curious.
yeah, no, it's a awesome. It's an awesome segue actually. So when you compare Algolia to Google, we are the second largest search vendor globally. So we do more searches per year, per month. We're doing, and I'm like billions of searches, every week. Um, the we are basically a Google, but for an e-commerce store. We are a Google for a marketplace. We are a Google for anyone that needs to find content, be it on streaming devices, be it on any type of application that has a desire to get customers into the door and help them find and discover what they're looking for. That's what we do.
So you're not going out onto onto the main part of the internet and searching for things. There's like a specific set of domains within which you provide search, and that search is highly targeted and highly efficient. Do I understand this properly?
Yeah, correct. So I think Google in its infancy is about they refer themselves as a data company. I think we refer to ourselves as an experience company, and the concept there is that if we look at an individual store that's trying to sell a product, a service, a outcome, we
Right.
take their metadata, their data, their requirements. So are we trying to
Got
sell
it.
stuff? Are we trying to subscribe a
Got it.
user? Are we trying to keep a user? And then we use that context to really drive an outcome for them. And that outcome might be, about increasing revenue for shopping. But the key thing that we always kind of refer to ourselves as, and we've all been to a website, and we've always used a website that has some form of search experience. So if you look at Apple or Amazon or Netflix or any of these kind of applications, when you go to that, platform, you're usually delighted by the experience because they know you. They know what movies you've watched. They know what products you've already purchased before, and they can help you make an informed decision about, what your interests are. The challenge you have, as most retailers have, is when you look at the amount of call it infrastructure and people that Amazon throw at search, you're talking like 800 people. And so a retail store that is they can't afford that many people, right? So we fill that gap between the journey of simply building search, that little box in the top right hand corner in the middle of the screen, and we basically help them lead that way into that that same like level of personalized experience with search.
So I mentioned earlier this idea of if you understand analog, understanding digital is so much easier. So I want to back up and try to make an analogy and tell me if I'm walking down the right street. So I walk into a gigantic supermarket or some kind of real physical store, and I'm looking for, I don't know, like men's exercise socks. But it's impossible for me to find it. Like I always walk into these stores or even into an airport and I'm like, if I could just click a button and find out exactly where that thing was and have an arrow just to point me there, that would be awesome. So are you saying that like you're basically going into the digital twin essentially of some physical store, but obviously online, and then you're saying we're going to just take inventory on a constant sort of real-time basis. As the inventory changes, we update the search. As the search updates, we update the inventory kind of thing so that when I go to that store online, I can find exactly what I want without having much of a problem. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. Like when you think about the notion of endless aisle, when you
Yeah.
walk in that physical store, the store merchandisers have got the front of aisle, which is their high sell, high margin, high sale volume. And then as you walk
Right.
into the shelves, you've got, probably the people have paid for the eye level, the eye level
Yeah.
stock versus the
Yeah.
cheap stuff down the bottom and maybe, I don't know, the not so cheap stuff at the top. We do that the same. We call them search and merch team. And so the user experience is probably the most important thing. Instead of you walking aisles and aisles, you already use that search box. And on average, we're seeing about 40 odd percent of customers go straight to search. They don't even start the browse category because they're already intent to come to the website to look for something. And so that same store experience in terms of you're coming in there looking for your socks. What was it? Black socks, was it? So
Nobody exercises in black socks, but go ahead.
yeah. But yeah, that whole experience and that journey is kind of what we as a business are delivering. You talk there about inventory, supply chain issues. There's nothing worse than you're adding to cart. You're buying for Christmas. You're adding to cart the 10 items. You go to checkout, and then you get this report that says, "Hey, we don't have these products in stock." And you're like, "Dang! I just spent an hour trying to build my Christmas list, and I check out and I don't have it." So Algolia can provide that closed loop as well to help customers and vendors. Hey, how much inventory do we have? Great. Let's make sure that either spot number 2 and 3 when they actually do a search. Oh, cool. We have a higher margin product. Let's make sure it's at third spot and fourth spot. So we can help, the business make a better experience on the whole full journey of when they actually find the products as well as purchasing as well.
So this is actually kind of cool, and you should think about this too, right?
I was definitely thinking about it. I was like,
No, but
how
you should
can I-
definitely think about this when you talk about like online store design. Here's
For sure.
something that I'm just thinking about, and tell me where I'm wrong here as well, Bruce. Right? Like, if 40% of people that go to an online store go right to search, in a way, doesn't it argue for a very simple front page for a store where you re-engineer what an online store looks like so that it's just kind of like a super cool search engine? And if you are personalizing it for me, so if I'm at that store like 15, 20 times, that when I show up to the store, it shows me completely different products than when Martin shows up for that store. And that it's a very simple thing. But once I start searching, then I'm actually in a place where I'm surrounded by the products for which I'm searching, as opposed to the rest of the stuff that's there. Do you know what I mean? Where like a store
Yeah,
now is like my store kind of thing.
100%. 100%. Like if you're looking for a job, we can hire you because what you're talking about there is exactly what it is. Like the UX experience or the UI experience, or just simply the customer engagement. I think, and this may be a really bad slide, I think, but like if you really want to get good at search, if you want to get good at customer service, listen to your customers. And there's usually a common theme there. I'm looking for X, I'm looking for Y. And the really powerful thing about, I said Google's a data company. Well, Algolia will make that retailer some really informed decisions. Like, what are people searching on? What are people searching on that we don't have in stock? So do we have a gap in our offering? And then, what are people searching on that have no results? Again, is there a poor customer experience there? And then to that point of like, how do you minimalize the experience, right? Do we need to have all these categories and filters and facets? Why are we not just giving them the search box and saying, stay within that search box, discover what you need? Is it about a price point you're trying
That was
to
my
drive? Is
point.
it about a
That was my point.
Yeah.
Like, why am I walking by drills and knives if all I want is socks, right? I don't want to be annoyed. And this is actually the point. Is like, you could literally, because it should be iterative, right? In other words, if I have an online store and I'm using some product, if I'm using Algolia's product for search, I should get all this data feedback as well as the merchant, right? That says, when Martin comes in here, don't show him this stuff because it's just in his way. But also, we need to have more of these things because this is what people are searching for. But there's also a supply chain integration here as well, right? In other words, if we know people are searching for this, we may run out of these things. Let's go into our supply chain and then build this automatic ordering process as well. Are you doing that too?
No, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't do that. Let's call it that order management piece. Our goal with the name is algorithm. So when you think about an algorithm, it requires an input to produce an output. And we like a lot of customers ask us. I have lots of conversations with customers around like, how do we get more out of you? How do we, and also our commercial model. Why are you not, doing revenue share model? Like the more that people search on, the more that you help us convert. Unfortunately, we can't control what you've got in stock. We can't control what you sell. We're not a marketplace offering per se. We help the marketplaces find what they're looking for, but we can't control that. And so, to that point, really, what we try and integrate with is the different e-commerce platforms, and secondly, their product piece, so their product information management, and basically their inventory. Now, the customers could actually use our data to flag that there's an inventory, that there's been an increase in consumption on a specific product. Hey, let's use this in our business analysis to say we need to, forecast for more widget A and widget B. But we don't drive that. That's kind of probably outside of our scope. I think for us, it's about delighting the customers. The kind of three variables that we typically talk about is, the customer has to be a very fast experience. They want to be able to search and be able to find what they're looking for. It has to be contextually relevant. So as you said, man, black socks, or it already knows you're a man or a woman and you're putting their black socks, and it already knows that you've purchased something. So it's already saying, well, the last purchase was this black socks. You may be interested in this pink socks, white socks, red socks, whatever it is. And
Red
as you're
socks.
checking out,
Go Bo socks, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. But so that's like, we always think about the customer in that ecosystem. How do we make sure it's a user really intuitive UI? They might just go straight to the search box, do the searches. They get a really poor experience. They're not going to come back. That's the reality. And we find when we
you said a couple of
solution. Yeah.
Sorry, you said a couple of things that are really interesting. We'll talk about system integration in a second, but you just kind of blew by this word, and Martin will love this, of product information management.
Yeah.
We've done a whole bunch of work on PIM.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in case you're a little bit curious. But I heard you say it, and in my brain it went ding, ding, ding. There's the PIM thing again. Most people don't talk about this.
Yeah.
But the other thing you said was it has to be fast. I'm really curious why speed matters so much, but also how do you, not how do you measure speed, but like how fast is fast kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How fast is fast? That's a great point. There's speed to a website is everything. I think people probably have overcycled on it. And, you talk about simple designs and how quick it is to load a page. And
Sure.
if you're not doing the good stuff like using CDNs and things like that. So I bring like jargon into those content delivery networks.
I love it. Content delivery networks. Go for it.
I was going to say PIMs and CDNs. Let's not go down now. What do you call it? Acronym bingo.
Why not?
Buzzword bingo. Sorry. Look, I think the most important the most important case that everyone's like kind of refers to is Amazon reckons that if you add 100 milliseconds to your response time, you'll basically lose 1% of revenue. So back at Amazon land, that's significant, right? If you turn that around, 1 second in latency for Amazon is basically $1.6 billion plus in sales. So making it fast is important. The other thing as well is when you look at Algolia, some of the table stakes stuff we talk about is actually really important. So have you ever gone you're on a mobile, you've got your two thumbs working or even one thumb working, and you start writing for your black socks, you go BLK. So you've incorrectly spelt it. But the search engine, like Algolia, should be smart enough to know that you're saying black, and we will actually autocomplete that for you and go, awesome. Socks, SOC. Cool. I think you're already trying to look for black socks because that's what I've already got indexed here. So you may just put S and we'll go black sneakers, socks, sun hat, whatever it is, right? And we will basically auto complete that. That has to be fast as well. So the ability to pull back an API really quickly and be able to produce a result and improve that customer experience on a mobile device where they've got very short attention spans and a small bit of glass is really fundamental.
It's a really interesting point, right? Once you get used to completion, right? Word completion, if it's not there, it's almost like being naked in a way. You're like, well, wait a second, where did all my stuff go? How come it's not completing for me? How come it doesn't know what I want? It's weird because when you first do it, it's a little bit creepy. You're like, slow down, dude. I'll do my own typing over here. But once it's not there, you're like, how can you not know that I wanted those socks kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, and
100%.
this kind of stuff
100%.
doesn't necessarily happen on a website, right? Like sometimes it just in or in all the search tool that exists, there is not necessarily these kind of things. So if you're used to that in your email, in your text, and all of that, and it doesn't happen on the website, like as you said, it can make the customer experience like so bad. And if you just type wrong and it doesn't correct by
I know.
itself,
You're like, come on. How
then
can you
people are
not
like,
know?
oh, that's so annoying, right? And I
Right.
can exactly see,
Right.
like that's why I'm not talking much so far, and I'm just listening to you because I'm sold, like I'm done. Like just after that, like we talked about like how we integrate that into my .tech store.
You're just thinking like you're making notes.
Because like yeah, I'm taking notes. I can see definitely like all the value that we can bring to online merchants. Like with such a powerful search bars that's gonna like help the customer get the data. Like everyone should do that. Yes.
I can't stop thinking about how an e-commerce website should be completely redesigned.
About like just the search box.
Just a search box.
What do you want?
Well, because you're going to buy it's a fashion thing, it's a pet thing, it's a dog food store, and you know what you want. And I don't want to be annoyed. It's like when you walk in the old days. You guys are probably too young to understand to remember this, but like you would walk into Macy's in New York or Bloomingdale's, and on the first floor they always had the cosmetics and the perfumes, right? And you would walk in and there'd be some woman there spraying a piece of paper or spraying you with some kind of toiletry. And you're like, I'm here for the third floor. Can you just leave me alone? And you don't want to be rude, but you feel like they're being rude to you. And I feel like if you could redesign the way an e-commerce store looks and works, in a way, it could be like this magical experience where like you walk in and the person is there just to serve you. And that's great search, I think. Does that make sense? Do I have this wrong?
Yeah, most definitely. No, it's true. Like, if you look at customer journeys as well, I mean, there's no doubt we buy for other people as well. So sometimes you can, if you're walking in the
Yeah.
store to buy perfume, I know what you're saying. You walk through that perfume section, you feel like you're being, I don't know, it's like you're going
Ambushed.
It's probably some sort of COVID thing, right? You walk through there and you get basically clean for COVID, and then like it's like
Yeah,
you get sprayed on.
exactly.
But to your point, there is a lot of noise on a lot of websites sometimes, and the assumption is the merchandisers are saying, "Well, this is what we have to sell. Please have a look at what we've got." So that discovery experience is really tough. But your idea, if you're buying for a kid, or you're buying for your wife, or you're buying for overseas, or whatever it is, like you're asking the same, this natural language piece. And natural language is buying present for 12-year-old in UK. And you should be able to put that into any website and be able to say, well, I know I've got a card for Lacoste. Therefore, I want to be able to buy for Lacoste. I want them to deliver it in the UK. So that's search experience. Now, if you come back to that store, there is definitely, again, information in, information out. We're making the assumption that you're based in the UK, you're 12-year-old, there's like that. So you have to be very intelligent about the way that you produce that natural language piece. And that's another whole, like, you could spend an hour on that alone, right? In terms of how we take that language and how we rank it based on our algorithm. But let's not go there, because it will take a long time to go to that.
No, but that's actually really interesting, right? Because
I think that's okay.
yeah, because when you walk into a store, the salesperson knows what you look like. So they know you're not a 12-year-old. And at some point, the search has to be able to, what's the right word? Resolve that as well,
Yeah.
regardless. Does that make sense too?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple of customers. I'm not going to name drop, but there's a couple of customers now that are actually building journeys as opposed to, so if you come to a website, you've got a product number, a specific use case, and you put into the search engine, you can find your products. One of the key things that we're finding from retailers is they want to build a journey or experience. And so, if you're buying snow gear, and, are you buying it for an active wear? Are you buying it because you want it for comfort and warmth? Or are you buying it for, like, what sort of degree of temperature? And you go next stage. So you've chosen sport. Are you skiing? Are you snowboarding? Are you tobogganing? Is the sport literally moving snow out of the driveway, right? And it will actually build that journey for you. And then
Oh,
and
you
then
just
it
went back
creates
to that.
almost like a trust. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you because you said shoveling snow again, and it just made me. I got like this like post-stress,
Still.
post-trauma distress order about shoveling snow. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but you're right. Yeah, and the search has to be smart enough to know that even though I search for something similar today, it's not necessarily the same thing tomorrow. But here's the other thing I want to ask, because you said e-commerce sites are now starting to build journeys, right? And I remember walking in IKEA the first time and thinking, why do I have to walk through this maze of stuff just to get to pillows or lights? I know what they're doing, but it's a terrible customer experience, right? They're trying to trick your brain into, like, maybe we need a couch or maybe we need a this thing or that thing. It's a horrible experience. And I find that a lot of e-commerce stores try to rebuild the offline experience online in a way that's terrible. But I can't get this idea out of my head that, like, every e-commerce store should just be like a search engine. But I want to ask you this, because you mentioned these two words in passing too. In your mind, right? What's the difference between searching for something and discovering something?
Yeah, that's an awesome point. The idea of search in its infancy is that you are, like we just talked about, it's coming to a site with an intent to buy something, and that's great. That's great. Discovery piece is more around understanding what the original problem is and using that to drive the outcome as well. So we feel discovery beyond simply selling a product and informing a customer and building them into a repeatable, you know, let's call it token or trust, is really important. You'll notice now that you talk there about the pet store. I'm coming to the pet store because I always buy the same type of dog food, cat food, bird food, whatever it is, for this my pet. If you go there and use a search bar and say, best dog food, yes, they'll produce the best dog food, but wouldn't it be great if you said, here's actually what the customers have rated on best dog food, and here's a story about, or a blog that says this is the reason why so that discovery is just beyond simply selling a product and joining the dots from you to product. It's actually about informing them. And so once that information becomes of trust, that's really important. We kind of call that federated search. So it's one of those, again, back to the whole scenario where, search, you need to find what you're looking for. Discovery, I want to find an outcome, and that outcome might not be what I've originally came to the store for, but I'm discovering what you have for me to offer. And that helps basically those, and we can use the word retail because of this, but you could use a word for that for anything. I like murder mysteries, therefore the next kind of genres that come in a bookstore, murder mysteries. And also, I've also said videos that also has murder mysteries in as well.
So actually, like with what you say just now, like for example, with the blog story, on how like this customer used this food, for doing something amazing, like we can completely within the way that we convert on the website. We can just do something completely different from what we do right now with urgency, with special offers, with all of that. Instead, we can create content, for example, around customer experience, around stories, and like thanks to great search, like make sure that the customers who look for stuff are going to find the right story. And then like just rethink completely how we convert on a website, right? It made me think about that. Is that right? Or
Yeah, correct. And I think, I know we've got a short amount of time, but one of the things
Take as much time as you want, man.
kind of, oh, awesome. I mean, I was going to say this could go on for days, but I mean, there's a lot up here. I want to, want to make sure I get across.
Go, go, go.
One of one of the things that always comes to mind, and you just said there, like, if I was a retailer sitting listening to this, going, "Oh, this all sounds great, but at what cost? At what effort?" That's the one thing I think there is this notion, I think, there for technology, like the PIM. The PIM, essentially is a lot of information, right? And that's a hard thing to move. Search, it's real time. You tell us what products you got to sell. You tell us how much inventory you've got. We'll actually tell you what the customers are searching for, and that's going to make you an informed decision. I think that's the key that people seem to be missing, is that this stuff is not hard. You just have to start getting those basic fundamentals in place to say, yeah, we know we need to do this. We know there's an outcome here. We know that search converts. We should probably be thinking about the customer journeys in that context. They're coming to our site with intent. Let's think about that. So it does require a little bit of mental shift, but there's the big payoff.
What's the view on recommendation engines in the context of search? And I'll tell you why. This goes back for me really like 30 years. I remember going into Barney's in New York when it was really a great men's clothing store. And I went there to buy a suit. And obviously, when you want to try on a suit, you need to try on a shirt and a tie with it. And the suit, let's say, cost back then, $700. And I was 20 something years old. And they gave me a shirt and a tie, and they said, okay, it looked great together. But when I got to the checkout, the tie was like $400. Do you know what I mean? So like the recommendation engine was just going, I don't really care how much money you have or what you want. I'm just trying to take more money from you without really thinking about it. And I've always been really skeptical of this idea of people who bought this also bought that. It's like, I came here to buy this. Can you leave me alone with the rest of this stuff? I mean, you can see this is just my personality when I shop. I know what I want. Just help me find it fast. And even here where I live right now in Bangkok, in 7-Eleven, sometimes you'll grab some water from the cabinet, you'll go to the front to pay for it, and they'll say, "Do you want some banana bread?" I'm like, "No, I don't want banana bread. Stop trying to sell me stuff I don't want." How do you look at
Yep.
the recommendation engines in the context of the customer experience, particularly as it relates to search and discovery?
Yeah, it's a real tricky one.
It is.
And there is and like when you think about retail segments, you've got your healthcares, you've got your automotive, you've got your traditional fast fashion. There's so many different types of customer experiences. So if you're buying an auto part and it's some form of part, I don't know, exhaust, whatever it is, manifold, it's extremely low cost. You add it to cart, and then you see the option that says, you know what, you probably need to buy the brackets that go with it because the other customers bought the brackets. So in that context, it kind of gives you a sense. But more importantly, the concern is that, well, I thought this was a package deal. I thought I got the bolts and the chassis and whatever and the lock nuts with it. So I think there is a notion of there's recommendations that are okay. The last customer that came to the website, this is how frequently bought. They seem to always want to buy this. We've always got these really good products, and that you can also drive that based on what product you have in stock. And then you add it to cart, and then you go, well, you've just added the jacket. Have you thought about adding pants and shirt? And you can buy it as a package deal with a discount, or you can buy them one off because they go really well together. So I 100% understand retailers need to make money. I think the upsell piece is definitely, it's going to be everywhere you go because they're looking to improve that average order value. But to your point, like if there is especially in fast fashion, there is outfits, right? When women buy, it's they're looking for that look, and that look requires accessories. And I think we find it all the time, right? But that does recommend come into the personalization journey. Yeah, 100%. I think back to the whole notion of you're coming there, you already know my affinity profile, so I like these types of things. You want to be smart, right? And that's really what we as a business recognize, that recommend is definitely that next journey that we're taking beyond the search box. And we like to say it's that search and discovery is also browse, right? What products you see and what services you want to be consumed. It's amazing what you can do.
How do you look at the data models, right? If you've been at this since 2012, if I remember the date you said correctly, it's over 10 years now. There's just a ton of data being gathered. And to be fair, like the concept of data analysis and applying machine learning and ML ops to it is way different today, particularly in the mobile space, than it was in 2012. Obviously, it's iterating and adapting almost in real time. Yeah. But when you talk to
Mm.
your clients about the data models, how do you walk them through how important sort of the data that they're gathering and that you're gathering for them is, and also the cleanliness of that data, if that makes sense, that then they can use that data to go through an analysis process to understand all of the things and all of the decisions that they can then use that data for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say as well is, there is a custodian of the data as well. That's another big thing that they talk about. Like, we want our data to be secured. There's always, again, being a French origin, we have the same PIR and GDPR, basically looking after their data and also making sure it's segmented for them own. We never repurpose that data. And it's theirs, right? It's their customer experiences. It's their own appetite to use what they want. But you're right. Every time that there's a clicking conversion event, so someone uses a search box, they see some recommendations. The customer chooses one of those recommendations. They say, great, that's driving traffic. That's driving interest. The conversion event is either adding it to cart or checking out. And that intent is amazing data, because again, yeah, you can take that, run your own algorithms, or you can run our algorithm, which is saying, look, conversions are happening on these products. It's up to you whether or not you want to boost them, promote them. We can more than happy do it very easily for you. And also we can write the rules that say, okay, we've got new product. How do we make sure that new product comes to the surface? Because there's nothing worse than a retailer saying, we've got all this great new stuff sitting here,
Right.
and
And
our
nobody
engine
knows
is
about
built
it.
that says exactly we'll boost this result based on A, customer ratings, B, how many units were sold. But if they're brand new, they're not going to surface up. They're going to be buried down right down on the product listing page. And so we have the capability to augment that and say, no, anything that's brand new, let's make sure it's up on that first couple of tiers, because that's what customers are wanting. We're listening to our customers. They're saying they want yellow this year. They think this is, for summer it's going to be yellow. We're in winter right now, but for summer it's going to be yellow. So let's make sure we get some yellow product there.
Do you think about this when you're designing websites, right? Or when you're talking to your clients about designing websites, about this idea of the site itself should have some kind of dynamic features. Do you know what I mean? Where
Like,
stuff on it changes?
like I'm gonna answer the question differently, Michael.
Go
Like,
ahead.
not a lot of customers are aware of that and ask for that. Like, not a lot of customers are like, yeah, this is very important for my store. I need to have that. Like, all
Your
of the great things.
customers,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah. All of my
But your
customers, like,
customers.
oh, my customers, they might love it, right? But
Right,
like, at
that's my
most
point.
of the shops that they go, there is not things like that to help them, right? So it leads
I'm an
me.
idea guy. This is what my point is, that I think that there should be some kind of
Yeah,
dynamism,
for
right?
for sure. Like, this some they like it should be used much more. And so, which leads me to my question, like, what kind of customers can benefit the most about like what you do, like, because
Yeah.
we talk about data, so most of the time we need volume to have great data. So, like, do we need stores that have like 1,000 visitors a day, 10,000 visitors a day, or is it okay to have just like 100 or 200? Like, is there like a point under which one it's not interesting or not?
Well, that's a great
That is a
question.
great question.
You know, that's like, if you only have, like another buzzword, units, SKUs, products,
Mhm.
you stock keep units, right? If you only have a handful of them, you know, 50, 10, there's probably an understanding customers coming there. Now, if those 10 are unique to, let's say they're candles, for example, and those candles have, different smells, different products in them, and, there might be some medicinal benefits. There might be some allergen scenarios. That's when the discovery comes in. The ability for you to have be it blogs, customer experiences, or potentially the medical information on it. With Algolia, we've made search very accessible. I think the key thing for us is you can be an enterprise, serving 300 million people. You can be a small medium business serving 1,000 operators. You want to get to that stage. The really unique thing about Algolia is that we've made the developer experience really seamless. We've recognized that some of the journey that developers go through, they're very time poor. I kind of say developers spin lots of plates and we'll call that waterfall. And then we built this thing called Agile. And so we basically built them a washing machine, a basic dishwasher. And so they shove all these plates in there, right? And they have to work out the setting and they've still got to pack it and unpack it. So these developers are so time poor. They're looking for quick ways to introduce features that are going to basically service their customers' needs. And so I think with that in mind, Algolia has built this amazing platform for developers to co-create, great experiences at the SMB level, those small and medium businesses, for mum and pops, as well as the enterprise space and on different facets. So, but to your point, where does search become relevant? I think it's on the eye of the beholder. If we go down the journey of simply creating this browse experience, where they stay inside the search box, then any size customer. But if they're looking for great big, marketplace products, then we can support that as well.
Yeah, so like actually it can evolve, right? Like we can just start with something small because the store is small, and once it's growing, then we have more data and we can do more things, basically, right? Like, so that's completely okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when Steve Jobs went back to Apple, sorry to interrupt you, right? He just drew this grid. And on one side of the grid was professional products, and on the other side was consumer products. And he had a high level and a low level for both of them, and they made 4 products. And he said, the great thing about Apple is you can put all of our products on one table. Over time, obviously, that's changed. But this idea that there was some sort of data relevance, which is what you're talking about, and which is what Bruce is addressing, is that it gets more relevant over time the more data you gather. But it doesn't need to be like 1,000 SKUs. And it doesn't need to be 25 million people looking at it for that data to still have some kind of relevance in the product that you offer, but also in the search results that come from people just coming to your site and going, I want a computer that edits video.
Yeah, and that's funny that you took the example of a store selling candles, because I was exactly thinking when I was asking this question about one of my customers
who
was
sells
selling
candles,
and they have like so many variation of the same candles. Plus, they do some custom candles. So like, even if it's not a beach store, the number of options that they have is so huge,
right?
And that they have this problem. Like they always tell me, like, Martin, how do I make the experience for my customer not to have a drop-down menu with 250 options?
I have an idea.
I have 250 options.
Right, so, but I have an idea.
Tell us,
no, but this whole conversation has given me this incredible idea about like how to redesign what an e-commerce site looks like based on a customer journey, right? So if I go to the candle store, I'm thinking about, I don't want to see 700 candles. First of all, maybe I'm buying it for a Christmas decoration or a birthday thing or something, right? So I have a category that I have. But if you go into the NLP, and this is what Bruce was talking about before, candles for Christmas in Boston, well, then you should have like 6 choices. Because one of the problems that I've always had with e-commerce, and I've asked chief revenue officers this, how do you get better discovery, right? And my favorite answer was with this one guy who, I won't even say the company name anymore. He said, we don't have a problem with discovery. We have 2 million products. And I said to him, exactly. He didn't get it. The audience understood. But the point is that, getting back to the outfit thing, you made a super good point, which we kind of ran past too quickly. If I'm buying a black shirt, well, black is, you can wear with anything. But let's just say like your girlfriend or your wife or your partner is buying like some flowery shirt. She's already decided that's what it is. It's only going to go with a finite number of skirts or pants. Why am I seeing 700 things? Just show me the 5 that go best with this. You know what it is, right? So just show me that. And in a way, it's like the same thing with the candles. It's December 14th. You can't make the presumption that it's a Christmas candle. But you can say, like, is this a Christmas candle? You can have a little bit of a back and forth, but also if they write Christmas candle, don't show me the birthday candle with like 72 on it that says happy birthday, grandpa. You should know this,
Yeah.
right? Without going down the search box. But I think there's a way, and this is just a first thought, but I think there's a way to reinvent the way that e-commerce thing happens, because you can redesign the store on the fly depending on when it is in a way that's dynamic that you can't do offline. Anyway, go ahead.
No, that's really true. And I think if you look at the building blocks of good, search or just good customer experience, those best practices wrapped around it, you have to make the search experience really user friendly. That's really important. So the natural language speed, autocomplete, synonyms where, is it a hat, a cap, headgear? Is it a baseball cap? Making sure that they can put in their hat and that allows them to link it up. You have to also look at the data and back to the whole thing. If we've got all this data, make data driven decisions. Like that's the whole concept of it. And then once you've kind of looked at that, then you have to basically look for, okay, what mechanisms, what mediums are we going to use? Omnichannel is dead. You have to do omnichannel. I think that's the there's no more omnichannel per se. So make search available across the board. Why are we not introducing search in store? If we have a challenge with actual human contact with COVID, why are we not putting kiosks in store that has search so they can inform them what aisle they're on, or oh, you've come in, you've added your credentials. Oh, I've already know what you're looking for, or your previous search results. Let's make sure the sales rep can help you the most way. So I think search and optimizing for mobile and other applications is really important. And then if you look at the whole picture around those table stake things that we talked about around making intuitive, making natural language, making audio search, like the idea that you're driving, you can click the button and say, I'm searching for, where is the closest, I don't know, supermarket to me, or where is the closest, Nike shoes, for example. And we should be able to translate that in different language and then be able to support it. So that's kind of like, make all those basic building blocks of putting the right information in the search box good and user friendly, and then make it aspirational, like inspire people. And that comes back to the whole discovery piece, right? Like if I put a little bow on it, Nike's great. You should also buy the socks too with it, or Nike's great, and here's the actual products that are on sale. Even that's a great example. Even like if you're a conscious, it sounds like you're a very conscious buyer, Michael. So you're
Yes.
like every time you do a
Not
search, you
according to
go.
Martin.
So but it'd be like on sale black socks, or on sale black dress, and
If you
it should have that notion that you've tagged it as being on sale, or what's gone 30% off, or whatever it is, and it'll boost those results for you because you're conscious.
if you want to convince Michael, you need to sell him microphones and cameras and headphones. And if they are on sale, wow, don't tell him how much you have in stock, because in case you have like only 10,
He'll buy them all.
he's gonna buy them all for sure.
He'll definitely buy them
Actually,
all.
you've just hit a really interesting use case. I'm so sorry. I just thought then as well.
No,
The
go.
other use case for search is you think we're talking here all about customer experience in the front end, but what about customer experience in the back end? These poor support reps that are constantly being bombarded by incoming calls about, I can't reboot my phone. What battery size does it take? The idea that they can use search and that we can actually mine their basically their support queue and say, well, we get thousands of these requests. Here's the right answer. And then, wow, what about this? What about if we actually plug that into our website? That little bottom box in the right hand corner there that says, bot suggestions, and we feed that data in there. So giving them customers immediate support, real time support used on the existing data is an amazing use case that we see lots of users like in Zendesk using as well. So, I mean, outside of traditional retail and supporting retail in the back office piece, there's amazing opportunities there for saving time.
But and again, you've just opened up another entire can of worms, right? Which is fascinating to me. And that is, there's a B2B opportunity for companies like Algolia to say, there aren't just individuals searching for neckties and socks, but there are massive companies trying to ship things from, the Philippines to California that are searching for the best ship to put it on. And that as well is a purchase, some sort of this fits into the e-commerce undercover, right? Because people don't think about this as e-commerce, but if it's electronic, and someone's buying something, it's commerce. And if they're searching for that, like, when is that boat leaving kind of thing, that is
Yeah,
another use case for this, no?
100%. The geolocation piece, that's like amazing. Again, I don't want to keep name dropping, but there's an amazing couple of apps out there that use a geo piece, like All Terrain, that look for mountain biking or climbing, and I'm located here. Give me the most. So the use case there is not. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to sell something in the whole grand scheme, so e-sale. But yeah, there's a huge amount of opportunity there as well, and examples.
Yeah, and I love this. Just give me 1 second. I love this idea of there should be an online to offline experience with search that no one talks about. You've just brought it up. But here's the thing, right? If I walk into a store and I just want to go directly to that thing, why not? My phone has a GPS on it. Every product or every department in your store can have some kind of NFC chip on it, or I'll let you figure out how that works. But all of that can be data driven. Just take me to aisle 4 if that's where the stuff is that I want, kind of thing, right? I mean, search should be able to do that too instantaneously, no?
Yeah, correct. 100%. That's I think that real time data loop or data feed in is a great example, and that does obviously parlay into the offline world as well. Um, but yeah, again, I think where we as a business get hamstrung is based on legacy infrastructure, and that kind of comes full circle. Uh, the data problem is big and it's real, and the usability of it's really important. And I think for a business like ours, where search and that genre of search, I think we could bring in a whole bunch of different data sets like ERPs and order management systems and supply chains. The risk we run is, yeah, do we become more than our traditional swim lane, which is search and discovery? And that's been the challenge, right? And of course, we also go outside. So Algolia is and will only be a publicly facing. We will only basically serve up data that's publicly facing. We'll never go behind firewalls. And the reason why we do that is, again, it's for data sovereignty and data support. That's a really and the beautiful thing about that though as well is the use case that we have is that we actually are technically a disaster recovery solution for a lot of solutions out there. Because if the data is live and real, we can basically index it, make it accessible, and be their fault tolerance. It's an amazing use case that we're seeing happening all time and time again. So you can, to your point, normalize the website, make it seamless, and then just replicate it inside of Algolia. And it's really, really simple to use, fast as well.
I feel like there's like so much things that we can do with great search. Like,
Oh my
like
gosh.
I feel like we can go on and go on and go on, and this leads me to an idea as well, because I get like a lot of customers on Dr. Tech who are doing influence marketing, and basically the way they do is that they're gonna ship the product for example, to you, Mike, because you are doing great podcast. So,
Right.
so the microphone that you might use for podcasting must be awesome, right?
It is.
So like the company doing microphone can ship you the product, pay you for using that, and
Right.
then doing some sort of influence marketing that way. So if I am this company selling the microphone, is there a way that I can integrate the Instagram post, the YouTube videos that Michael is gonna do with my product in my website, and then when I search this post, this video of the influencer basically using my product can show up as well, just to support the message and the product. Can we imagine something like that?
Absolutely. I can. I'm
Most
sure
definitely.
Bruce can.
Yeah, I'm always about ideas, and I think we 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 say this a lot to our customers is the use case that you create has to have business value, and it's clear here we've got two kind of outcomes. One is a branding profile and trust, and also we want to move the microphone unit, right? They're probably the two things. Once you've built trust, and you've built that business case, then that's going to obviously elevate the priority of the solution. And that's kind of what we operate in that model: use case, business value, the priority, and then how do we resource it appropriately? Those kind of four. And I think the key thing here is if you take it from that 50,000 foot view and then really bring it right back down to the runway level, usually that has to have that initiative behind it. And it's either to improve customer experience, improve net promoter score, increase loyalty, repeat visits, revenue up, revenue down, revenue, whatever it looks like. Once you define those, that will drive the appetite, right? And that's really important here.
Isn't that the best way to end?
I think that's the best way to end.
That's perfect, right?
That's perfect.
That's perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself if I were Bruce.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to do that, though.
Maybe Bruce should host a podcast as well.
I was going to say, if he needs a job,
if he needs
he
a
was
job,
offering me a job before. I think I should offer him a job now.
we can get him as a host as well.
Bruce, that was awesome. Bruce Macdonald, head of ANZ Sales, ANZ Sales, depending on where you're from, of Algolia. That was awesome, Bruce. Thank you so much for doing that.
No, thank you. And I really appreciate all the effort you put into this. Like, it does take a lot of time for you folks, and the content they're producing is amazing. So keep it up. I really appreciate it.